In this video, we will be discussing about polymer and composite materials. So let's begin. In the introduction, there is the definition of polymers, which says poly means many and meros means parts of units. So basically, this is a Greek letter which means many units. So polymer is a large molecule of which is formed by repeating linking of small molecules called monomers. So in general we call it usually mers. More monomer molecule joined in a unit of a long polymer. So for example, we have a monomer of ethylene. This is the ethene, and if we polymerize, if we take certain amount of units of this ethylene monomer or ethylene mer, we combine it to form a polyethylene, okay, that is used in polythene bags and containers, etc. So there are certain types of polymers. One is the natural polymer, the other one is the semi-synthetic polymer and the synthetic polymer. So in the natural polymer, the polymers are made up of natural material, for example protein, which was made up of amino acids. Then we have cellulose, starch and rubber. In semi-synthetic polymer, we have cellulose derivatives such as cellulose acetate, which is rayon, and in synthetic polymer we have Buna S, Buna R, nylon, polyethylene, polyester, polystyrene. So we have a lot of synthetic polymers which we use in today's life. Next, we have types of polymer in terms of its morphology or its structure, in which we have linear polymers in which you can see that the atoms are arranged in a linear form and a linear chain. Then we have a branched polymer in which the chain is being added with a branch in between. So, and in the third one, the polymer is a cross-link, that is several chains are being attached together by branching. And the D1 is the network polymer, in which approximately each atom is a part of the network and it's combined to the other atoms in a definite pattern. Okay, this pattern may be long range or short range. So then we have a classification of polymer molecule. So molecular characteristics, in which in the molecular characteristics we have the chemistry, that is the repeating unit of composition. What type of unit is it? Is it polystyrene? Is it ethylene? Is it vinyl chloride? Is it you can say bakelite? Then the size of the molecule, how much weight it has, the shape, either it is chain twisting, either it is entangled, and then the structure. So the structure can be further classified into the linear, branch, cross-linked and network, as we discussed. And these structures have isomers, that is stereoisomers and geometrical isomers, in which you know that the chemical property is the same, the chemical formula is the same, but they are arranged in a different pattern. So in stereoisomers we have isotactic, then we have syntactic and atactic, and in geometrical isomers we have cis and trans geometrical isomers. Next, we have thermoplastics. You all would have known that thermoplastics are the plastics which when we heat it, they soften and we can easily recycle it. But the thing over here is, if you heat it to a very high temperatures, the polymer degradation is started. That means the polymer is started to degrade and it cannot come back to its original form. So in this thermoplastics, you have to make sure that you don't heat your thermoplastic on a very high temperature, because the properties would not be re-achieved, or it would not be recycled, rather than it would be degraded. So if you heat it on a certain temperature, it softens and you can reshape the polymer in whatever shape you want. So the examples are polyethylene, polystyrene, and PTFE, this is Teflon, and vinyl chloride. Then thermoset plastic, you know that these are network polymers. The thermoplastics were linear and branch polymers, and thermosetting one are network polymers, usually are cross-link polymers as well. So the degree of cross-linking in the thermosetting polymers is 10 to 50% of the repeating units, and thermoplastics are usually harder, they are stronger than thermoplastics, but and they also have a better dimensional stability, but they do not come back to, or they do not soften when they are heated. Okay, so these includes vulcanized rubbers, epoxies, phenolics, and some polyester resins and thermosetting. Next we have copolymers. So in copolymers we have random copolymer, alternating copolymer, block copolymer, and graft polymer copolymer. So a copolymer is the polymer derived from the more than one species of the monomer. So if you are using more than one mer or more than one monomer, the polymer would be known as copolymer. Okay, so in the random copolymer, random linear copolymer, you can see that the two species, the two different types of polymers, one in the red and the other in the blue, are randomly arranged. Alright, and in the alternating polymer, the one monomer and the other monomer are alternating. Okay, so one would be of the red one and the other would be of the blue polymer, and then it will be followed throughout. Then we have block copolymers. In the block copolymer, what we have is that there is a certain amount of one type of monomer and then the other type of monomer, which monomer chain which is joined together. So there are certain blocks of one monomer chain and the other monomer chain, which makes a block copolymer. Then we have a graft copolymer, in which we do the grafting of one type of monomer to another type of monomer chain. As you can see that this is the polymer of the blue one, the blue compound, and the other one is grafted, the red one is grafted onto it. So there are two red ones which are grafted on it. Alright, so these are the four types of copolymers. Then we have polymer crystallinity. We have done a numerical problem of the polymer crystallinity before in the previous lectures, in the previous example problems. I will be linking, I'll be putting the link of the video in the description, so you can just check out the numerical problem. So in the polymer crystallinity, the percentage crystallinity means that how much amount of your polymer is crystalline. Okay, so as you can see that it depends on the densities of the actual bulk, the bulk density, the density of the crystalline phase, and the density of the amorphous phase. The rho C is the density of the crystalline region, rho S is the density of the whole solid, the whole polymer, rho A is the density of the amorphous region. So if you put this in the formula, you can get the percentage crystallinity of the polymer. Okay, so as you can see in this diagram, that the disordered amorphous, this is the disordered region is the amorphous region, and the arranged region is the ordered region is the crystalline region. So the more the crystallinity in a polymer, the more it would be it would be less transparent, the more opaque it would be. So the more crystallinity, the more opaque the polymer would be, and if the polymer would be more amorphous, the more transparent it would be. Alright, so you have to keep that in mind. And if the ordered, if there is a long range, it's like, as you can see that this is a long range order and this is the short range order. So if there is a lot long range order, so the polymer crystallinity would be higher than that of the polymer which has a short range order. So these are some characteristics of the polymer: that it has low density, it has low coefficient of friction, it has a good corrosion resistance. But the negative part of this is that these are usually not biodegradable, and scientists today are want to make such polymers which are biodegradable, so that we can eliminate the problem of landfills and land pollution. Then we have good moldability. The polymers can be easily molded into dyes, into shapes. Then they have excellent surface finish, which is not usually obtained in metals or on woods. It can be produced with close dimensional tolerances. It is very economical. It has a poor tensile strength. It has low mechanical properties. It has a poor temperature resistance, and it can be produced transparent or in different colors. So these are some characteristics of polymer. Then the applications of polymers are the polymers are used in medicine, in consumer sciences, in the industry, and in sports. So in medicine, we usually use it to create a heart valve or blood vessels, which are made of polymers like Dacron, Teflon, and polyurethane. Then in consumer sciences, the polymers which are used are in uh, plastic containers, clothing, covering, garbage disposal bags, etc. In packaging as well. In industry, these polymers are used in automobile parts and windshields, for fighter planes, pipes, tanks, packaging materials, insulations, wood substitutes, adhesives, etc., etc. In sports, these polymers are used in the playground equipment, various in balls, golf clubs, swimming pools, and protective helmets, etc. So these are some of the polymer materials. These are its trade names, its common names, and there is a major application and the typical applications. So these are of the thermoplastics, these two charts, and this one is of for the thermocertain polymers. So you can easily check out the applications against the names. So after polymers, now we have composites. So you can see the composites can be made up of any type of material, which if you combine any two or more than two any kind of material, we can create a polymer, we can create a composite. So if we want to achieve a particular application, we would design our composite according to their conditions. Okay, so composites can be made up of metals, glass, ceramics and glasses, foams, natural material, and polymer elastomers. You can see that the composites definition, that a broad definition of composite is two or more chemically distinct materials which when combined have improved properties over the individual materials. So now the property of the composite would be dominating for the of the two materials which are used. So the constituent retain their identities in the composite, that is, they do not dissolve or otherwise merge completely into each other, although they act in a concert. So this means that the two constituents or more than two constituents which are combined together will never lose their original identity, but they would produce an optimum application property in order to uh, you know like what we want to have in our service part. So the advantages of composites over the other materials are they are light in weight, the strength to weight ratio and stiffness to weight ratio are greater than steel or aluminum. That means they provide a higher strength compared to its weight, or higher stiffness compared to its weight uh, uh, against aluminum and steel. Their fatigue properties are better than common engineering metals, that is, it can bear a high amount of cyclic load, and the composites do not corrode like steel, but they are very highly corrosive resistance, and it is possible to achieve combinations of properties which are not attainable with metals, ceramics, or polymers alone. Alright. So we can achieve an intermediate property of metal and ceramic, or metal and polymer, or polymer and ceramic, whatever we want. Then what are the components in a composite material? So there are two components in a composite material. One is a primary phase, or the matrix phase, in which the secondary material would be embedded, and the other phase is the secondary phase, and that is also called reinforcement or reinforcing agent, which is embedded in the matrix or in the primary phase, and serve to strengthen the composite. So the reinforcing phase may be in the form of fibers, particles, or any other geometries, as you can see in the later slides. So the function of matrix material, the primary phase, is to form of the part or product made of the composite material. So that is basically the matrix phase, is that phase of which the material is basically composed, or the composite base is basically made of, and it holds the embedded phase, which is the reinforcement. Okay, so when a load is applied, the matrix shares the load with the secondary phase, which is the strengthening phase, and in some cases deforming, so that the stress is essentially borne by the reinforcing agent. So whenever the load is applied to the composite, the load is carried to the matrix, and then the matrix sends that load to the strengthening part, which is the reinforcement, because a matrix cannot bear a high amount of stress, so it would transmit that stress into the reinforcement agent, and that bears the stress. So that is the reason why the reinforcing agent is called as the strengthening phase as well. Okay, so the function of secondary phase or the reinforcement is to provide the strength to the matrix. So these reinforcement can be in terms of fibers, it can be in terms of particles, particulates, or flakes. Okay, so and the matrix material reinforcement, so the factors in creating composites are two types of factors: the matrix material and the reinforcement material. So you can see that the reinforcement material depends on the concentration of the reinforcement. As you can see in A, that this has a higher concentration of reinforcement, and this has a lower concentration of reinforcement. It is first phased. The blue one is the matrix. B, the size, either they can be used in a large size, or they can be in a smaller size. Then shape, so they can be used in different shapes. For example, in part C, you can see here is the circular shape, the cylindrical shape, and here is the cuboidal shape being used of the reinforcement material. Then the distribution of the reinforcement, which is in this, you can see that this distribution is in a straight line, and this is a random distribution. And then the orientation of the reinforcement is it can be in any orientation. That is in this part you can see that this diagram is in the lateral position, and this is in the longitudinal position in the reinforcement material. So it depends on what kind of properties you want in your final product, which will be in the service. Then the classification based on the type of reinforcement. So there are three types of classification. First is the the particle reinforced, then is the fiber reinforced, and the other one is the structural. So in the particle reinforcement, the particle can be large particles, or it can be dispersion strengthening, in which the particle size is very small, but the amount of the particles are very high. Then we have fiber reinforcement, in which one has a continuous or aligned fiber, and then the other one is a discontinuous or short fibers, in which they can be aligned, or they can be randomly oriented. So in the structural part, we have laminates and sandwich panels. So large particle reinforced composites have a particle size of 1 to 50 microns or micrometer, you can say, and the concentration is usually from 415 to 40% maximum by volume, and the rest is the matrix. And the particles phase is usually harder and stiffer than the matrix. Again, as we know that the reinforcement will always be for higher strength or hardness compared to the matrix. Then the particles provide strength to the composite by restraining the movement of the matrix. So if there is a high amount of stress on the composite, so that stress would be transmitted to the particle phase or the reinforcement, and that would be restraining the movement of the matrix. It would resist the movement, or it would resist the straining of the matrix. So the examples are ceramic, tungsten carbide ceramics, and titanium carbide, and vulcanized rubber and concrete. Next we have dispersion strengthening composite, in which the particle size is less than 0.1 micron or micrometers, and these are very fine and hard particles. The volume fraction of these particles would be about 5 to 15%, and these particles are very strong and sometimes made up of pure metal, sometimes are very stronger than the pure metal matrix if it is used, and can be metallic, intermetallic, or non-metallic. It can be any particle, and the matrix is the load bearing phase in this, okay, because the metal these matrices are usually made up of metals, as you can see in SAP, TD nickel, and copper alumina, and copper zinc alumina. So this is the particles as the reinforcement. You can see the particulates on the composite. These are the reinforcement, and that the white part is the matrix. Then these are fillers as the reinforcement. So these are filler composites, and the white part again is the matrix. Then fiber reinforced composites. The fiber can be continuous fibers, and as you can see, or they can be discontinuous fibers, as you can see in this figure, that the fibers are randomly oriented, not in a particular direction. So typical reinforcement geometries for composites are continuously reinforced. As you can see that these fibers are straight, and we have sandwiched one fiber reinforcement composite in this direction, in the x direction, and the other one is in the y directions. So these are two perpendicular to each other. Then we have whiskers and choppers, that is used as a continuous reinforcement. And then we have particulates. Other composite structures are laminar composite structures, 2 or more layers bonded together in the integral piece. As you can see that these laminates are usually these you can see them in the laminate boards, chipwoods especially. So in the sandwich structures, you can see foam and honey cores. So this is a honeycomb structure, which consists of a thick core of low density foam bonded into both faces of thin sheets. So we are using thin sheets over here, and there is a low density foam bonded on the both faces of the sheets. It is usually looks like a honeycomb, like we can see it from the natural honeybee nest. So the very common example of this type of composites are chipwoods, which we usually use in our homes and for furnitures and other purposes. And you can see that these chipwoods are very light in weight, and they're pretty easy to handle and pretty easy to manufacture from that part. Then we have classification based on matrices, that what kind of matrix a composite has. So we can have a polymer matrix composite, we can have a metal matrix composite, and we can have a ceramic matrix composite. So in a polymer matrix composite we have thermosets metric, we can have a thermoplastic matrix, and we can have a rubber matrix. All right, so the role of the matrix phase again, let's go through this role of the matrix phase. So primary function of the matrix phase is in a composite is to hold and bind the reinforcement phase in the position within it. We know this. It acts as a medium through which the external load is transmitted and distributed to the reinforcement phase. So the matrix would be acting as a medium which will transfer the load to the reinforcement. Then it separates the fibers from each other. So it also protects the individual fibers from the surface damage which is caused due to abrasion and oxidation. It also improves the fracture toughness of the composite, and it withstands high temperatures or cold temperatures, and conduct or resist electricity, and it also controls the chemical attack. So this is the role of the matrix phase. So now we have a polymer matrix composite in which the matrix phase is the polymer, and the secondary phase would be in terms of fibers, particles, and flakes. Commercially, PMCs are more important than MMCs or CMCs. That means that the polymer matrix composites are very much used in applications. So low density and high specific strength, they have a very low density, they are light in weight, and they have a particular amount of strength, a very high stiffness, and they can be easily fabricated. So the examples are rubber reinforced with carbon black, and reinforced plastic, that is FRPs. Then metal matrix composite, in this we have metals with low density and low temperature toughness. These are usually preferred as in the composites. High temperature metals are usually not preferred because we have to take it on a very high temperature, and it can also affect the reinforcement phase. So typically they are made up of aluminum, titanium, magnesium, and other alloys. So advantages of this is that they can be operated on high temperatures, they are not flammable, and they have a high creep resistance. They have a greater resistance to degradation by organic fluids, and the applications are in the aerospace industry, gas turbine blades, and in electrical contacts. So next we have ceramic matrix composites, CMCs, and the primary objective to develop the CMCs was to enhance the toughness while retaining the high temperature properties. So you know that the ceramics are very high temperature resistance and have a very high melting point, and are very good resistance to corrosion and oxidation as well, but they have a very low tensile strength, and the impact resistance is also low. So the primary objective of this ceramics is only to enhance the toughness and the high temperature properties in a composite. This is example of examples are small particles of partially stabilized zirconia. So these zirconia is partially or sometimes fully stabilized zirconia have a very high toughness and they can also be used in high temperature applications, which is dispersed within the matrix of alumina, Al2O3. Next we have hybrid composites. Composites are those which are the combination of two or more reinforcement fibers. In this we can have a metal reinforcement and ceramic reinforcement both in a polymer a matrix. So this kind of composites are called hybrid composites, and the most common hybrid composites are carbon aramid reinforced with epoxy, which combines strength and impact resistance, and the other example is glass carbon reinforced with epoxy, which gives a very strong material at a reasonable price. So the applications of composites are in the aircraft and aerospace industry, automotive industry, the marine industry, sporting industries, biomaterials. Especially nowadays, people are making a lot of biomaterials through the powder metallurgy technique, and it also has some industrial applications. We also, with the advantages, we also have some disadvantages and limitations of the composite materials, in which the first one is that we have anisotropic properties. The properties of the composites are not same in all its directions. That means the properties are anisotropic. So the properties differ depending on the direction in which they are measured, and this sometimes can be an advantage, but a lot of time this is a disadvantage. And many of the polymer based composites are subjected to attack by chemicals or solvent, just as the polymer themselves are susceptible to attack. Okay. Then the third one is that composite materials are usually expensive, and the manufacturing of these composites is usually slow and a bit costly. Okay, so that was all from the polymer and composite slides. Thank you.